Switch 2 is the last straw. I'm done with Nintendo.
Peeps did a channel a video about it.
So the Switch
Whatever.
2 is out, and
What?
Waste of money.
A lot of, I mean, for a bigger screen, and you got
That's
mouse
the same. That's what
controls.
Peeps said. He just said it was on worth it.
You got mouse controls.
honestly, I wish I could say I was excited. I really, really wanted to be excited. Like many 90s babies, I grew up on Nintendo. They were my very first gaming love. And not just the
I was gonna
games,
say,
but the feeling of them. The wonder, the warmth, the way they pulled you into a world and made it feel like home. Ocarina of Time.
but yeah, like I was just about to say, literally, that's the one I found. Remember, I was telling you about it in the desert. But I'm trying to react to this, baby. Well, let me restart the entirety of that since the intro of that video is all scuffed. Alright, Switch 2, last straw. I'm done with Nintendo.
So the Switch 2 is out, and honestly, I wish I could say I was excited. I really, really wanted to be excited. Like many 90s babies.
They really just didn't push as hard as they do. Like, normally whenever a Nintendo console comes out, it's got like some big innovation. Like the Wii had motion controls, the fucking Wii U had how garbage a console could be. Nintendo Switch was portable. Like, all these things were like innovations. And now it seems like they're not innovating anymore. They're just reiterating on the Wii U now.
I grew up on Nintendo. They were my very first gaming love.
And yeah, same also. That's what I was going to get into. My very first console was actually
And not just the games, but the feeling of them.
The fucking Game Boy. And I had fucking Fire Red also. Not Fire Red. Pokemon Red version.
The wonder, the warmth, the way they pulled you into a world and made it feel like home. Ocarina of
See, I didn't play a lot of SNES games, but I did have a 64. Ocarina of
Time was the one that really
I was always more of a Majora's Mask person personally, but
awoke something in me. That opening in Kokiri Forest with the Deku Tree, riding Epona across Hyrule Field, it all felt so massive. Like a real world was tucked inside a little cartridge. And then Majora's Mask came along, and my little self had never felt such anxiety. That eerie.
You know what? Actually, we are gonna fucking bump this up like this. Probably just look better overall.
Moon, the ticking clock, the emotional side quest.
I was Majora's Mask was just, it hit on a whole nother different level. Like, I played that game so much just for the aesthetics of it. Nothing else. Like, not even the gameplay. Just living in that world felt just different.
That made you care so much in so little time. It was the very first game that made me feel something beyond just fun. It was sad.
Creeped the shit out of me. Holy shit. Yeah, look at that face.
Confusing, kind of strange at times, and very deep. It wasn't just Zelda. I was obsessed with Super Mario 64. Running wild through Peach's castle.
Alright, hot take. I didn't actually play Super Mario 64 until it came out for the DS, like way, way later. Like, I barely ever played it on the actual Nintendo 64.
Jumping into paintings, discovering every secret star. That game felt like true freedom. And then there were classics like Kirby's Dream Land, Yoshi's Story, Donkey Kong 64, Star Fox, Metroid Prime, all complete.
Donkey Kong 64 was so fucking fire. And so was Metroid Prime. Both of those games were so good. The other games I didn't play as much, but
completely different and wonderful in their own way. And every one of them had a vibe, a soul, that Nintendo spark that made it feel like you weren't just playing, you were being let in.
I was gonna say, they had an aesthetic to them that, like, every time you saw it on the shelf, like, other people tried to mimic it, and you could even see, like, when it was a bad imitation compared to when Nintendo actually pushed it.
Something very special. And then my parents bought me the original DS, and just like that, the whole thing was cracked wide open for me. That's how I found Animal Crossing.
I played so much Pokemon Rescue Rangers on the fucking DS. That was my first game, and then immediately after I got Diamond and Pearl, and it was over.
World, and I was hooked. I spent hours in that little village, rearranging furniture, writing letters, fishing for red snappers, and visiting my best friend's town during our weekly sleepovers. Even now, just hearing the soundtrack makes me very emotional. It takes me right back
See, I didn't play too much Animal Crossing on the actual DS. I didn't actually play Animal Crossing until it came out, till New Leaf dropped, and then I played a lot of it on my 3DS. And then obviously, the one that came out for the Switch, I played a little bit of it, and then my girlfriend has destroyed that game.
Back to those quiet, cozy afternoons after school, all curled up with that clunky silver DS with nowhere else that I needed to be. Truly the epitome of nostalgia. I didn't know it then, but those games were helping to shape how I saw everything.
Now, I gotta say, I think it's fucking hilarious that this entire time she's talking about Nintendo nostalgia, she has fucking Power World up in the background. And she's playing Power World, like the fucking spite. It's even funnier because my girlfriend's actually playing Power World right now, too.
Stories, characters, even myself, and for a while, it really felt like Nintendo understood how to make something that mattered. And it didn't stop there. I
The
basically
Wii,
owned
oh
every
my
major
god,
Nintendo
yeah,
console,
that
starting with the N64.
everyone had to have a Wii. Wii Mania was fucking insane.
GameCube, Wii, DS, 3DS, even the Wii U, which, in my humble
The 3DS, a lot of fucking what's the word? A lot of eye doctors got a raise that month. The fucking year that dropped.
opinion, was ahead of its time, by the way. But I owned all of them. And when the Switch was announced with Breath of the Wild, I was beyond
With the Wii U, I didn't know it was a new console. I thought it was an add-on to the original Wii. So I just skipped it entirely. I was like, oh, shit, it's just a little tablet that comes with your Wii. I'm not going to get on that. And then someone like told me, what was it? Wind Waker came out for it. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I'll get Wind Waker for it. And then that's when I found out that the Wii U was an entirely separate console. I was like, wait, what? You're telling me I can't just put this disc in my Wii and it'll work? Wait, what?
excited. Like, very cringely crying at the announcement trailer excited. As a Zelda fan, it was everything I'd ever wanted in a game, and to this day, it is still one of my favorites. That launch brought back
I remember the week the fucking Switch dropped, I literally had the money to buy it, and I didn't pre-order it, and I worked at Walmart. You would think working at Walmart, I'd have like first fucking pass at like all the Switches that they would have like in stock and everything. Nope. I went there to the fucking back to try to grab my version of Switch 2. They were already all either sold to another customer or like sold to another employee. I almost cried. It was ridiculous. I could not find one. I had to actually go to a scalper on eBay and pay double the price for my Switch. Yeah, actually.
You're dumb.
Well, I didn't do it. Yeah.
Where's my phone?
It's right here.
I gotta go potty.
Oh, well. I'm gonna say my ex bought it, but still.
so much of the old magic, which is probably why I held on for so long and I even wanted to work for them. Like, genuinely. I applied to corporate Nintendo
did you,
PR
for
jobs
real?
probably 15 to 20 times. I'm not even exaggerating. Back in 2019,
wonder
I
if
was
she has
pursuing
a,
PR, and when I got the opportunity to go to
she's doing
E3 that year,
PR,
the very last
got you.
E3, by the way, I actually spoke with a Nintendo PR
See, I was sitting here thinking she was trying to be a dev.
team in person. It was magical. The Nintendo section of the event was so overwhelming and electric, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is what I want, and this is what I want to be a part of. So please, hear
I've never been to a convention before, but I've got to imagine it's like a surreal experience. Like, I'll never be able to go to one because they're not really doing them anymore all that much. But like, it's got to be fun. Like, especially like at like a Nintendo event like that where they got like all the characters and everything. That shit's got to be like on another level.
hear me out. What we are about to discuss isn't coming from someone who's out to bash Nintendo. This is coming from someone who genuinely, wholeheartedly, even
I
at
feel like
times
we're all
very
Nintendo fans
cringely,
at the
loved
end of the day.
Nintendo
Like,
and their games. And
Nintendo's like Disney, where they have creeped their way not only into my childhood, but they've also creeped their way into my mother's childhood, and they're going to creep their way into my children's childhood. Like, it's just one of those generational companies that like gets passed along because it's a childhood hobby that is shared between parents and children.
really believed in what I thought they stood for. But over time, I've started to realize that maybe Nintendo isn't the company I thought they were. What
They
I've
are
seen
a
over the
company.
last few years is
I was
that
gonna
my
say that is
nostalgia
for sure,
goggles
they're a
have been
company.
working overtime, and they've kept me from really seeing the true nature of a company that I once held so dear to my heart. So, let's dive in. And let's start with the release of the Switch 2. It's officially out now, and sales are booming. Records are
Yeah, I
being
was gonna
broken,
say,
and over 3
I've seen so many unboxing videos. I'm sure people are like buying it up like nobody's business, but like everybody I've seen has been saying it's not worth.
million units were sold worldwide on release day. People are also loving Mario Kart World, and I'm genuinely very happy for them. Yes, the game looks like a lot of fun. I
I've
just wish
never tried.
I felt something, because more than
Well,
anything,
that's what I was gonna get at. I was like, open world Mario Kart. Well, that's a cool concept. Like, it didn't get me like hype.
I just feel tired. At $450 or $500 if you get it bundled with Mario Kart World, this doesn't feel like a celebration of the next
$500.
chapter. It feels like Nintendo
They're doing it again.
seeing how far they can stretch our loyalty, how much they can charge us for something that isn't even new, just a little bit newer. And listen, I'm not here to crap on Mario Kart. I actually really like Mario Kart. I do. It's
No, Mario Kart 8 was seeing how far they could push to sell us the same fucking thing over and over again, just a little bit fucking newer. This game came out on the Wii. Not the Wii U, not the fucking. It came out on the Wii. And then it came out on the DS. And then it came out on the. Or no, I think it came out on the 3DS. Then it came out on the 3DS. Then it came out on the Wii U. Then it came out on the Switch. Then it came out again, I think, on the Switch. Like, this game has come out so many fucking times and people have bought it. So, like, of course, the first thing they're going to push with the release of a console that's essentially the same thing again is a new version of Martin. New version. Well, it probably actually is. I haven't even seen any gameplay from it.
one of those comfort games that's always been there, and it's attached to so many fond memories of playing with friends and family. But even though it looks fun, when that's the flagship title for a brand new console launch, I don't know, I personally just couldn't get behind the hype. It feels kind of boring, safe, predictable. Nintendo isn't asking, hey, what's possible here? They're asking, what can we get away with? Because $80.
No. It is what's possible. How possible is it for us to sell them the same thing again? That is the question.
For Mario
They're
Kart
definitely
World,
pushing
that's
what's
not
possible.
just a new number. It's a shift in how this industry treats its players. And what surprises me, even though it shouldn't at this point, is that it's Nintendo, of all companies, ushering in this new pricing standard. This wasn't them reluctantly following a trend that I know was
See, everybody was thinking that GTA 6 was going to be the one that did the price hike. Nope, Nintendo got us to 90 real quick.
inevitable, but this was them leading the charge, setting a precedent, establishing $80 as the new normal, and not with some expansive, genre-pushing new experience, but with an exact game formula that we've literally seen 16 times at this point. And it makes you ask, why? Because meanwhile, I'm looking at games like Helldivers 2, Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, they could have pushed another game. Like, they could have had a new launch title. Like, they could have had a new IP launch with this. Like, that would have been insane. That would have at least given people a reason to try to, like, get on the Switch 2, other than just Mario Kart World.
Rush, Lies of P, Remnant 2, Clair Obscur, Baldur's Gate 3, and so many more. Games that have...
Imagine if they announced the Switch 2 and they said that you could play Expedition 33 anywhere you wanted. People would be buying that shit up like nobody's business. Well, I'm sure you can play Baldur's Gate 3 anywhere you want it on the Switch 2. I'll have to look into that more. It might be possible. I don't know.
Have real creative vision, some with massive campaigns, even some with fleshed out co-op systems, launching at or below $60. And many of these games are taking risks and really pushing boundaries, and somehow they're still finding a way to be more accessible. So when Nintendo drops a new console and leads with yet another Mario Kart at a higher price than ever before, it doesn't feel like they're honoring their legacy. It feels like they're monetizing it, like they're using it.
Oh, they're 110% monetizing their legacy. This is nostalgia bait like nobody's business to try to sell you the same console again.
Against us. Actually kind of feels like a slap in the face. That stings pretty badly. And yes, to be fair, the Switch 2 is a technical upgrade. 4K visuals, better battery, smoother performance,
we're no longer
more storage.
Walking around with PS3s, we're walking around with PS4s in our hand. It is a technical upgrade. They just didn't do a lot visually to show how much of a technical upgrade it is.
It's all technically better on paper, but it doesn't feel like a new era. It seems like a slightly fancier version of something that we already had. And for me personally, this realization of who Nintendo is not like a sudden moment of awakening.
This shouldn't have been a 2. This should have been like a Switch Plus or a Switch Pro. But they already did that with the Switch OLED. So like they're trying to do it again, so they had to fucking put a 2 on it. But like I said, this should have been like the plus version of the console. Oh.
I've quietly been stepping back from them for a while now. And not because I stopped loving their games,
Mostly
but
because of the
because I
Power
started seeing the
controversy.
patterns, the choices, and the shifts. And at this point, it's pretty clear that this Switch 2 release is not just about a new price tag or a
Like, I remember back in the day, what was it? I think it was, forget which Nintendo CEO it was. I'll have to look it up later. But one of the Nintendo CEOs literally took a pay cut so that way they didn't have to lay off any employees. Like, that's the Nintendo I remember. Now we have the Nintendo that will fucking sue an indie game because they throw balls at monsters.
genuine attempt at launching something new. It's just another step in the same pattern that's been repeating for years. Back in the day, this used to be the company that
look at
took
that.
risks, that made
Look at that. He's testing Super Mario World. That's insane. Like, and like, he doesn't look happy. This is a man who's probably been up for 5 days, and now he's presenting this shit to a fucking boardroom. But look at how fucking magical it looks.
magic that redefined entire genres and invited us into something truly special. But
You
now,
know, it was just a different
kind of just
breed.
seems like they're relying on the fact that we'll show up no matter what, even though they are so
Well, they know we
often
will.
very anti-consumer. It's because they know our nostalgia runs incredibly deep, and the more I've seen it,
It runs so deep that you probably have more childhood memories with Nintendo than Disney. That's how deep it runs.
the harder it has been to unsee. Nintendo has mastered something I can only describe as weaponized nostalgia. They've turned our childhood memories into a soulless business model, and the part that really hurts is that it works. It worked on me for so long. I've been the Nintendo fangirl who's
I
bought
was gonna say, I almost bought a Switch too. Like, until all the reviews started coming out about how it's pretty much just the same thing.
the remakes, re-releases, and updated ports, even though I knew deep down that what they were offering was not anything new. And looking back on it, I don't know, I guess it was because I didn't feel like I was buying a game, it felt like I was buying a memory. And Nintendo knows that. They know that we remember how it felt to blast through Alien Worlds and Metroid Prime, or how
You know, I want to agree with this, that like they do remember, but then like they fail to accurate. Like, I would love for them to re-release all the Pokemon games just like on a ROM emulator. Like, I will pay for them to emulate the Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch, but they won't do it. And like, they don't offer another avenue for me to buy them. Like, I can't buy a physical copy from Nintendo of Pokemon Red or Pokemon Blue. So like, there's no way for me to get this game. It was on the fucking Nintendo eShop back in the 3DS days, but now that's gone and everything else like that too. So I actually have no way to actually purchase these games from Nintendo, and I want to because I want to play them, and they know that I want to because they already did it once on the eShop before, but they just won't do it again, and I don't know why. It's literally leaving money on the table.
how it felt to spend hours raising your perfect Nintendog like it was your actual childhood pet. They know we feel these titles in a way that goes beyond gameplay. And they have perfected the art of re-releasing titles, sometimes only mildly updated, at full price, locking legacy content behind paywalls and subscriptions,
Yeah, no, they've done that before.
and offering nostalgia
Plenty of
not as a
times.
gift, but as a heartless transaction. And just a quick side note that I found out while I was writing out this video. Do you want to talk about Heartless? Because I just found out that Nintendo actually replaced the voice actress for Princess
really?
Peach after 18
I didn't
years.
know that.
And they didn't even tell her. She found out with the rest of the world when the new Mario Kart game came
No
out.
shot. That's insane. Imagine like being lined up for this role for 18 years and then realizing you missed out on the part the day the fucking game drops. That's so disrespectful.
They've done it before.
That's insane.
They did it to the dude in Mortal Kombat.
I don't think Nintendo owns Mortal Kombat,
I know,
do
but
they?
I'm talking about the game company that did Mortal Kombat. They did the same thing to him.
Yeah, well, I never heard about that one also.
Yeah, he get over here, that dude.
Yeah.
They replaced him, and he had no idea they were making a Mortal Kombat X.
Oh, I didn't realize that also.
So that's not the original dude in there.
That's crazy. No, but like this is the first time I've ever heard of Nintendo doing something like this.
I was
Because
just
like
saying, I heard the Mortal Kombat's done it,
it's just
and
insane.
it was one of their big boys they replaced.
Well,
they didn't
yeah.
tell him.
I was gonna say that it's been memed to death. Get over here.
Yeah, and he was it from the 90s, and they just got rid of him from Mortal Kombat X.
That's crazy though.
That's actually insane. But anyway, to get back on track, there's always been a huge difference between celebrating fan love and exploiting it. And for me, it seems like Nintendo has lived long enough to finally see themselves become the villain.
I was gonna
So
say
moving on
they
from the Switch
are
to
becoming
release.
they are the villain, but I feel like they've been the villain for a while. We're just now finally starting to see that they're the villain.
At some point, I started looking at how Nintendo treats the people who love their games. And what I found honestly broke my heart a little bit, because Nintendo doesn't just protect its legacy, they police it.
Yeah,
Let's start with content creators. This is nothing new. For many years now, Nintendo has been going after them.
They've been king of cease and desist. Like, anyone who knows what Pokemon Uranium is knows clearly that, what is it? That Nintendo does not give a shit about their fans or their fan games, because, like, Pokemon Uranium almost touches on, like, it uses the Pokemon IP. That's it. It's an entirely its own story in the Pokemon universe, in its own region, using some of its own Pokemon. It has some of the original in there also, but it makes new Pokemon for it. It's a really, really good fan game, but Nintendo does not want you to play it.
Gamers, YouTubers, musicians for doing what, honestly, most other gaming companies celebrate, sharing their love for the brand and its IP. Somehow, I managed to...
If Nintendo could, like with all this copyright stuff and everything around like fair use and everything, if we got rid of that fair use legal defense, Nintendo would strike down this video, or they would try to, just for putting like fucking Nintendo products and everything in the video and shit like that. Nintendo would be going after everyone.
Kind of turned a blind eye to most of this until the Point Crow situation. He was a YouTuber who was making these really incredible Breath of the Wild mod videos. Fun, creative, and totally original. And then one day, Nintendo claimed and struck 27 videos.
Jesus.
No warning, no conversation, just straight up attacked. And it wasn't just his Breath of the Wild mods, it was any content that featured them, including other creators who had collaborated with him. It all got wiped out.
Jesus, so like even other channels and everything were getting affected by it, not just his. See, and that's what Nintendo will do. If they don't want you to play their games online, because they 100% view it as a detriment to their business. They think you're going to go watch the game on YouTube, and instead of going and buying the game yourself, you're going to think that's a replacement for playing the game.
Like a purge. And it made me pause, because these weren't leaks and they weren't made to be malicious. It really was just fan content.
It's not even the original content of the game either. He's making modification videos, like where they're modifying the game itself. So it's not even like the original version of the game.
That was made out of love. And Nintendo really cracked down on it like it was a threat. And this was not an isolated case. One that has really stuck with me was Gilvasunner. And if you didn't know, Gilvasunner's channel used to be one of the only places online where you could find full Nintendo soundtracks. For years, Nintendo basically had these locked up very tight unless you were able to purchase a physical CD from Nintendo themselves. They weren't on Spotify, Apple Music, Nintendo's YouTube channel, no official platform to listen to any of it. And Gilva wasn't even trying to profit from this.
Okay, so then they eventually came out with Nintendo Music.
There were no No ads or monetization, just the original music uploaded for fans who wanted to relive the moments those songs came from. It was really a
And they
gift to the
shut it
community.
down.
And then it was gone.
Sounds about
Nintendo
right.
initially sent over
Well,
1,300
yeah, because why would you go to Nintendo Music, which I guess they just dropped, if you're going to this dude's channel? Like, he's a market replacement, so of course they got to get rid of him.
down notices, and after that, it was followed by another 2,200. The entire channel essentially wiped out, and Guilford closed up shop. And I know this might sound a little bit dramatic, but that was kind of a big turning point for me when it came to how I viewed them.
Yeah.
Just a little side note / confession, but as a former
I was gonna say the big one for me that I always saw was, like I said, Pokemon Uranium. If you were there, you remember. It's been, God, I think it was like all the way back in 2016, 2017. But like, yeah, that was my turning point when I realized that Nintendo wasn't the Nintendo they used to be.
former Disney adult who has learned the error of her ways, I feel pretty qualified to say this. Nintendo really
Honestly, gonna say, I could tell she was a Disney adult. I know you're a Disney adult.
is the Disney of gaming. They're wholesome on the surface, very full of magic and memories, but
No, and like you can easily make this comparison. Like I made the comparison at the beginning of this video.
underneath, there's a very quiet, corporate, malicious control. And both companies know how to tug at your childhood heartstrings while handing out copyright strikes and ulterior motives on the side.
Exactly.
At the time I was watching
AKA good business.
this unfold, the more I sat with what happened to Gilva, the more it made me
Not consumer friendly business, mind you, but still good business because it makes them more money. People aren't going to like that, but it is true.
wonder, why is Nintendo's music so locked away to begin with? These soundtracks have some of the most iconic songs in gaming. They were emotional, timeless, and they were very deeply personal for so many of us. And like I said earlier, Animal Crossing Wild World was my comfort game, and yet
And the thing with Animal Crossing is like it's an entirely different beast when it comes to music, because I believe both depending on the time of the year and time of day, you can have an entirely different soundtrack. So like on one day in spring, I could be wrong on this, but I believe like one day in spring at a certain time will have a different tune than one day in fall at the same time. And then every hour has a different soundtrack also for that hour. So depending on what time of day you tune into the game, you could get an entirely different soundtrack. So like trying to listen to those in game is almost next to impossible. So you're going to want to try to find that outside of the game offline if you want to, like, you're like me and you want to listen to it for 6 hours while you're fucking making video games and stuff like that.
at the time, there was basically no way for me to go listen to it legally. It felt like Nintendo had locked away their history in a vault, and they just would not let anyone open it up. And from there, I started noticing so many other examples. Fan games getting shut down, community passion projects being wiped out, and
The fan games, you should have seen that a while ago. Fucking, like I said, I'm gonna keep harping on that Pokemon Uranium.
listen, I get it. IP protection is legally within their right, but it all just felt like they were going out of their way to crack down on this, acting very aggressive, cold, and even heartless. Especially when you look around at many other companies, Sega, Capcom, Xbox, PlayStation, even some indie studios, and you see them amplifying creators, lifting them up, letting the fans be a part of the legacy. But Nintendo doesn't really do
Nintendo doesn't want to do that because they want you to consume. They don't want you to be a fan.
that. They continue to pull the plug again and again, and over time, I started wondering if maybe I had just been giving them the benefit of the doubt simply because I grew up loving them. So at this point, after the Gilfa Center takedown, I had already started to feel uneasy. The creator takedowns, the fan projects, the legacy content, it was all feeling a lot more controlling than caring. But the moment that truly stopped me in my tracks was when I heard the story of Gary Bowser. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know about any of this until I listened to an episode of Darknet Diaries, which, by the way, Jack does an incredible job explaining all of this.
I wonder what...
I'll link it in the description for you. Now, I obviously knew at this point Nintendo could be very protective of their IP, but this was on a whole other level. Gary was a part of a group called the Team Executor, and what they did was build and sell mod chips, little pieces of hardware that you could install in your Nintendo consoles to run homebrew apps, custom firmware, and yes, pirated games.
Well,
but
fair.
people also use those mods for stuff that wasn't necessarily
So
piracy.
it's essentially like the Game Sharks that have been part of Nintendo consoles for years. Like, I remember having a Game Shark all the way back on my DS and or no, I think I remember them selling them for the Game Boy SP, but I don't think I remember having one. I got one for my DS, I remember that much. And I remember you could, like, download games onto chips if you really wanted to using that software.
They used it to run backups of games they already owned, or just experiment with the system for their own personal use, things that were really never going to be available through Nintendo directly. Gary essentially became the fall guy for
Nintendo
the
does not want you to. They don't want you to fuck with any of their shit. They want it to stay nice, clean, and corporate. Like, nice, clean, and sanitized.
entire organization, and Nintendo came down on him in a way that was very extreme. In 2020, Gary was arrested at gunpoint in the Dominican Republic and extradited to the US. By 2022, he'd been sentenced to 3 years in prison and
Damn, they got him. I mean, damn. They got him arrested. I thought they were just going to fine him and it was going to be like a legal suit or something like that. No, they got him actually criminally charged.
ordered to pay $14.5 million in damages, $4.5 million in restitution, and then another $10 million from a civil suit. And after he got out early, he still owed all of it. And he started paying Nintendo.
Jesus Christ, imagine owing, oh God, 13 point something million, 10 million, and then so he owes somewhere Nintendo around $30 million in damages. There's no way he made that much off of those chips. There's no fucking way.
Back 25 to 30% of his monthly income, which at one point was just $25 a month from his prison library job. He'll basically be paying them for the rest of his life. When I heard that,
that's here, I'll back it up right there. That right there, that is a modern day indentured servant. Plain as day. That is a Nintendo slave.
Monthly income, which at one point was just $25 a month from his prison library job. He'll basically be paying them for the rest of his life. When I heard that, my stomach dropped. I genuinely felt heartbroken for him. Yes, what he and the rest of the team were doing was illegal, and they did profit off of it, but Gary was just one man. And are we really?
Yeah, see, and it's even a little bit of a gray line. Like, technically he did give an avenue for piracy, and he didn't have to add that into the chip's functionality. So, but like the homebrew scene, Nintendo has never helped with, and we've always had to find a way around it. Like, I remember back on the fucking GameCube, there were like homebrew softwares and shit that you could download into your computer and then hook your GameCube up to your computer and crack it that way and shit like that. Like, people have been doing this for years and creating software for it for years. I've never heard of anyone facing any legal action about it.
Really saying the punishment fits the crime here, because whatever legal lines were crossed, this felt less like justice and more like hatred and wrath. And not just for what he did.
It's not hatred and wrath, it's clear as day. It was to send a message to anyone else who wants to do it. It was mafia tactics. It's, if you do this, we're going to come after you. Plain as day.
But for daring to even touch Nintendo's closed system. And the part that really got me with this is Nintendo tried to get Sony and Microsoft to back them up here, to join the lawsuit and make it a united front against piracy. Both companies said no. Both Sony and Xbox,
because they know that their fucking homebrew scene is like not a big percentage, but it's still like 10% of your sales.
Dollar publishers in their own right refuse to be a part of it. Even they seem to think that it,
and not only that 10% of your sales, but then the PR is going to take that 10% to a 30% hit.
Was too far. And again, I am not here to outright defend piracy, really. There's a whole conversation.
I'm not either. I'm specifically talking about using this software for the homebrew scene to make your own games and load your own games onto these consoles. That is the only purpose that I think that this chip should have ever served, and the fact that it can be used for piracy is a side effect, unfortunately.
had about access, preservation, and ethics, but this felt incredibly cruel and predatory. Nintendo did not just want to stop Gary from what he was doing, they wanted to make him an example. And for me, this was the defining moment when I knew Nintendo was no longer the company that I had loved for decades. And if you thought Gary Bowser's case was just a one-off or a legal overreach in a rare situation, it wasn't, because not long after that, Nintendo set its sights on something much bigger and arguably much more telling. You might have already guessed it, but I'm talking about Power.
I was gonna say, it's been playing in the background. Oh shit, I did that on accident. Sorry about that. Yeah, she's only had gameplay of it playing in the background.
Nintendo set its sights on something much bigger and arguably much more telling. You might have already guessed it, but I'm talking about Power World.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was clear as day that this video was gonna go towards Power World. She has it playing in the background the entire time.
You probably remember when it blew up. A very weird, chaotic blend of Pokemon.
This game was so much fucking fun that I owned Game Pass, and I still bought this game after it came out day one on Game Pass, because I just knew that I wanted to support these developers. This game was so much fucking fun.
Style creature collecting and open world survival mechanics. It was very messy, it was wild, but it was so much fun. People were very obsessed.
I'm hoping they drop new content soon. I really am, actually.
Included. And yes, come on, it clearly was inspired by Pokemon. That's not a secret. You could throw a spear, you could collect little pals, you ride them, you battle them. It was Pokemon adjacent, absolutely. But here's the thing. It wasn't a copy. The characters were different. The art direction, tone, many mechanics were different.
I was gonna say, it's like, this is nothing close to any Pokemon game I've ever played. Like, I have never put the amount of hours I've put into a Pokemon game, the amount of hours I've put into Power World. I've put full on 7 days worth of hours into Power World, which is insane.
It took a very familiar genre and gave it a bold, slightly unhinged twist. And for the first time in years, fans were saying, why doesn't Nintendo try stuff like this? Instead of taking that feedback in stride, instead of rising to the challenge, listening, learning, evolving, Nintendo did what they've been doing for a while now. They sued. Together,
they stuck their head in the sand and sued. And now Pokemon Exit, what is it? Fucking Pokemon A through Z is going to fucking come out, and nobody's going to be about that game. Because honestly, it doesn't look like anything any Pokemon fan has ever wanted. The only thing they brought back that Pokemon fans want is Mega Evolutions. And like, yeah, don't bring them back in a bad game, dumbass.
With the Pokemon Company, they filed a patent infringement lawsuit against the Power World dev team. Not over character design, surprisingly, not even over branding, but over mechanics. Things like throwing a Pal Spear to catch creatures, using them in combat, riding them across the world. And because of all of this, the Power World team had to actually go in and change all of those features. They stripped out mechanics that
I was going to say, this is one of the indie gaming community's biggest losses and fucking Nintendo's biggest wins, unfortunately. They got them to fucking kneel.
Because they were unethical, but because they simply couldn't defend themselves against a legal juggernaut. And just like with the Gary Bowser case, Nintendo tried to bring other companies into the fight. Sony and Microsoft were purportedly approached to back them again here, and
the fact that you approached Microsoft when Power World was a Game Pass Day 1 exclusive, and Microsoft has been pushing that shit like their version of fucking Pokemon like nobody's business. Like, I know that like the Pocket Pair isn't owned by Xbox, but they might as fucking well be. Like, Nintendo must have it twisted if they thought Microsoft was going to back them for a second on this.
Again, they declined. They did not want to be a part of it. And all of this says a lot, because this could have been a big moment for Nintendo, a wake-up call, an opportunity for them to ask, what is it that people are responding to? Why are they so excited about this? What can we learn from this? But instead of innovation, they chose litigation. And to me, it was not a stand for creativity or IP protection. The Pokemon formula has been around for literally 30 years. We all know what it is and where it comes from. And Power World was not going to change that. No.
Nope.
This was Nintendo being a bully and swinging at anything that threatened the comfort of their complacency. They had an opportunity to grow.
They didn't want to market competitor. Digimon has been their only market competitor for years, and Digimon has made bad games for years. They have. Don't you sit over there and fucking react bad to me. They have made bad games for years. So then now someone comes out as a Pokemon competitor and makes a decent game in the gaming sphere, and now Nintendo actually has to innovate on Pokemon games. Thank God.
Evolve to take advantage of someone already laying the groundwork for them, but instead, they chose violence. And after everything, the creator
There it
takedowns, the
is.
loss
There it is, right there. I never heard about No Mario Sky. I need to look into that. But Pokemon Uranium version, that's such a fucking bad. You can still find it online, and if you do find it, go play it. But it's technically an illegal piece of software.
suits, the silencing of innovation, you think maybe Nintendo would at least try to get one thing right. Their legacy. I
Well,
remember when Nintendo Online was first announced. It sounded like such a win, a way to legally revisit
oh my god, yes, she's gonna talk about it. I literally ranted about it in the middle of the video. If you want us to play your old games, put them on the Switch Online, please.
classic titles, play old favorites, dive back into the library that built up this
Please.
brand. And at first, I was so hopeful,
If
but
I could play old DS games or old 3DS games or fucking like, oh my god, the possibilities are actually endless with what they could put on there. And I don't even need it to be part of the online service. They just need to fucking release it on the eShop, and I will buy it for $10.
the reality has been frustrating at best. Games
Yeah,
get
at
added
best.
randomly. Some months it's not much, other months it's one obscure NES title no one really
That's
asked for.
for yep.
Entire consoles like Game Boy Advance or N64 still feel incomplete, and sometimes titles will just
Exactly. Like you can play the like I don't even think you can play Majora's Mask on there. I'll have to double check on that.
disappear without warning or explanation. They're just gone. And now, with the launch of the Switch 2, I thought maybe they would just try to clean
Revamp
things
it
up a bit.
maybe?
GameCube has finally joined the retro
Oh,
lineup,
thank
which is
God.
very awesome. But they only added 3 games at launch: Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2,
Thank God they at least added Wind Waker, because like I wanted another way to actually play the GameCube version of that. I need to see if it's actually on the Switch now, because I'll
and
go ahead and
F-Zero
play that
GX.
shit.
Like, yeah, that's a cool trio, I guess, but it's
Soul Calibur is pretty fucking fun too. I love that Soul Calibur.
also pretty bare bones for a console.
But yeah, this is not a Nintendo. This is not a GameCube's live service launch, or not live service launch. Nintendo's like I don't even know what you would call this because it's not even really a streaming service. Like their gaming service, this is not a good launch for them. 3 games is not a launch. You had like where's Eternal Darkness? That could be on here. Where's fucking Twilight Princess? That could be on here. I know that one also came out for the Wii, but it was originally a GameCube release. I played it on the GameCube. I know. Um Where's fucking I know a lot of people didn't like it, but the fucking Star Fox game on the GameCube, that was going to be here. Where are the Metroid Prime games? Where's like there's so many where's Mario Sunshine? There's so many other good GameCube games that could be on here right now, but they're just not.
With so many legendary titles. And yes, I know more are coming, but
Why
why launch with
yeah,
so few?
why
Why
not
not
at
take the
launch?
easy win here and give your
Poquito.
fans what they've been begging you for years? Beyond the catalog, the performance isn't always there either. Sometimes there's lag, some games have awkward control schemes, others don't support cloud saves. It doesn't really feel like a premium service. It
At all.
feels like something Nintendo begrudgingly maintains and
It seems like something that they maintain because Game Pass is a thing and because fans kind of want it.
definitely not something that they can be proud of. The thing is I've always wanted to support something like this.
I would support something like this so fucking fast, but they need an actual game. Like they need actual games on it. Like if they had gold, silver, and crystal on there, I'd buy all 3 of them and play them. Fuck, when they did it with red and blue and yellow on the 3DS, I bought all 3 versions so I could complete the original 151 Pokedex, and I did it.
am very happy to pay to play these games legally. I want to revisit the titles that shaped me in a clean, easy way, but Nintendo has made it so hard. It's like they're sitting on this treasure trove of nostalgia, this very beautiful, powerful legacy, and instead of sharing it or celebrating it with us, they keep it to themselves and withhold it.
They're hoarding it like a fucking dragon, and I don't get it either. Like, it's not like they're sharing it amongst each other. They're just sitting on it.
They kind of hold it over us like drugs,
Yeah,
honestly, banking on the fact that we'll continue to play the part of the willing addicts who will be so happy for even
watch it be like some weird ass conspiracy in their head that they think that, like, if we go back and play the old games, we'll see it how low the quality of the new games are, or some shit like that.
the tiniest drop. It really is heartbreaking, but at this point, I'm not even really mad about it. I'm just tired and maybe still a little bit sad. Now, again, to be clear, this video is not meant to shame anybody. If you bought the Switch 2 or you're a part of Nintendo Online and you're loving it, I think that's great, truly.
That is a wonderful thing for you. I don't see how it could be worth the money.
I am not here to steal joy away from anyone. This video really is just to talk about how I can't ignore how much my own...
Maybe the Donkey Kong game will be worth it, actually. I forgot. I was looking at that. That does actually look genuinely fun. That looks like the one reason I actually might buy a Switch 2.
Relationship with Nintendo has changed over the years, and I don't love them anymore. Not the company, not like I used to. And that's difficult to say out loud because I grew up on these games.
Really
I spent summers chasing stars in Mario 64, winters decorating my Animal Crossing home.
I spent my entire childhood with a fucking Game Boy in my hand. Yeah, it is really sad to see Nintendo go down this route.
Racing my siblings in Mario Kart, riding Epona across Hyrule Field like it was the most magical thing in the world. And for me, these were not just games. They were a part of my childhood. And that's why all of this hurts so much, because the company that once led with a full heart and love for gaming feels like it's running on autopilot, giving us the absolute bare minimum. Comfortable, safe, lazy, greedy. We're getting less and paying more. And look, the industry as a whole is a bit of a mess right now, but it's still fair for us to ask for better.
We should still be able to ask for consumer, like, they should still be thinking about the consumer even though the industry's in a mess and on fire. They should still be trying to go for industry wins, not industry loses.
Feel valued as customers, to want these companies to care. And for a long time, I really believed that
we should be getting more Oblivion remasters and less Switch 2s.
Nintendo did, that they were different, that they stood for something. But now it's hard to see how that could still be true. I always joke that my relationship with Nintendo is super toxic because even after all of this, even after how I've seen how they treat their consumers and fans, part of me still hopes that they'll change because they could. It really would be so easy. If they wanted to, they could be the company that supports creators. And
I don't know what my cat's on right now. He just bit my girlfriend out of nowhere.
And then yelled at her.
Yeah, then yelled at her like she did something. You okay? You okay, buddy?
Instead of silencing them, shares their legacy instead of locking it away, prioritizes joy over control, and evolves instead of punishing innovation. I really would love nothing more than to fall back in love with them. But right now, it just seems like Nintendo is going to keep being Nintendo.
Yep.
They're
just going to keep ranking in those those cold, hard dollar bills, and then sending those cold, hard dollar bills to their lawyers.
Stuck and too happy to stay that way. The love that I once had for them was so real and the magic really mattered. But the company behind that magic, it feels further away than ever. If you made it to the end of this video, seriously, thank you so much. And I would love to hear your story.
What made
you fall in love with Nintendo? Are you still in love with them? Or have you also had a bit of a breakup with them like me? Let me know in the comments.
All about it. But yeah, go ahead, leave her a like, fucking go ahead and subscribe to her channel. She's been doing great. Yeah, if you hate Nintendo too, yeah, also like this video, because fuck that, they've been fucking up hardcore. But anyways, I think that's it for today, guys. I'm going